Continuing the interview with Joe Cook of Texoma, Oklahoma. He went into the Navy from Elkhart, Kansas. He was in Elkhart, Kansas, he and his wife when we met them, and we've been friends ever since then, and that was in 1956, I think. Joe, let's skip to the end of the World War II active combat situation in the Pacific Theater where you were. Where were you when they signed the surrender?
Oh, I was sitting there watching the goings on the Battleship Missouri. We were anchored off her starboard bow, and we could see all this stuff going on. And to recognize people, I really had to use binoculars. But then I didn't know very many of them anyway. All
who were the one or two you were very sure you knew who you were looking at?
Well, their Emperor and MacArthur and I forget which admiral was, but that were familiar to
Nimitz, I think, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, but it was exciting, to see it happen. And the most exciting thing to me was that it ended up being a peaceful event, and we had been told that they had been trained to fight to the last woman and child. And of course, when we landed the airborne troops on the north side of Tokyo Bay, there was a housing area there, and the people that fled, they still thought we was going to kill them, but then that didn't happen. So
you had landed troops there before you were actually watching the surrender?
Yeah. Yeah. And there was this wave after wave of airplanes going over, It was something to see.
Was that airborne, the 187th, the 101st, or do you have any idea what paratroops they were? Since I was a paratrooper, I'm suddenly curious.
Yeah. I knew at one time, but
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter at all.
They normally would have been airdropped, but we took them in on their landing craft, and like I said, there wasn't any. Didn't hear of any conflict at all.
Joe, I know you don't really want keeping a timepiece on it, but about how long did it take them on that ship to do all the signing and all the surrendering and get the ceremony over?
It seemed to me like it was a good part of the day, afternoon anyway.
And I suppose there was a whole bunch of ships anchored around.
Oh yeah,
where there were witnesses to this.
I don't know how many ships went into Tokyo Bay at one time, but it was a pretty good sized fleet. Yeah.
And not on battle alert, or was everybody on battle alert even though it was a surrender situation?
Well, yeah, I think it seemed to me like that we were at general quarters, but then nothing happened.
Yeah. So they made the surrender, and the ships then, I suppose, began to all drift off in different directions. But you guys went and picked some people up and took them somewhere. Tell us about that.
Yeah, there was a group of our ships like mine that went back to Guam and picked up the Marines there, and we took them into northern China. We made our landing at Tientsin. We anchored out so far that you could barely see land because it was so shallow in that area. It was too shallow for our ship, but the landing craft boats could take them in. I forget how many miles that we were anchored out, but then and other ships went landed Marines at other towns, I believe at Tsingtao and that general area of northern China coast, to turn it back over to the Chinese.
But you also picked up some Chinese troops and took them somewhere, didn't you?
Well, we had a problem with China had a problem with we was turning it back over to them and taking it back from the Japanese, that the communist influence out of Mongolia was coming in, and there was a communist influence. These people, you understand, had it so bad. They'd been overrun by the Japs so long and about starved out and everything. And when these communists came in and promised them good stuff going to happen, and they'd, you know, their money wasn't worth anything, and they was just in an awful strait. So, and Chiang Kai-shek, who was the leader of Nationalist China, who was our ally in World War II, they had destroyed the railroad, and he didn't have a way of getting troops up there to you know, take the area.
Take the area
instead of the communists taking the Chinese taking the area. So that's why we hauled troops up there.
So you hauled troops up there to try to keep it with Chiang Kai-shek's
Nationalist Army, yeah.
Nationalist Army, and yet they weren't able to supply them enough, and the communists actually came in and took over.
Yeah.
But not right then.
No, you know, we shut off our help because the political ones in Washington, they was catching too much slack. Our war was over, and they didn't want to get involved in China's deal. Even though Chiang Kai-shek had been our ally, and man, we had enough supplies and men over there, we could have steered that thing in a different direction, you know. But they want us to get out of it, so we give them a bunch of our old stores, you know, Weevil flour, stuff like that. We had, you know, about all of our flour was Weevily by that time. About all we had left away of meat to eat was Australian mutton, you know. But if you're hungry, you're hungry. Them Chinese were glad to get anything we'd give them.
Joe, I think we're running out of time again, but I think you see some parallels between that situation and the Iraq situation, and if there's enough time left here, we're going to be right back. And if there isn't, you do see some parallels, if I understand.
Yeah.